Okay. We're talking about yield percent. So yield percent is saying that not everything you buy of produce goes in the pot. If I buy carrots, only 81% of the weight of the carrots makes it into the pot by the time I peel them and cut off the ends and things like that. So I want to overshot so that by the time I trim the produce, I have the right amount still there for my recipe. So let's look at number 26, where we're going forward. The restaurant buys 100 pounds of potatoes. By the time you trim them, what's left? How much actually will go in the pot? So I need to look up the potato number. So here's the potato number. You're 78. That looks kind of messy. See if I can do that better. So what am I going to do with the 78% and the 100? So Steve is saying that just like what we did with our apples, we're to go with percents and decimals. There was a scoot of 2 scoots. That takes a decimal into percent form. If you want to go out of percent form back into decimal, you would scoot the other direction. Make sense? So I'm going to say this 78% will become 0.78. So when I have 0.78, the word of in math turns into multiply. If I want 78% of something, that's going to be a multiply. And 78% of what? It's going to be 100 pounds. And if I do that, I'm actually going to just get 78. And that shouldn't surprise me because percent means out of 100. So 78% of 100 is 78 out of 100. Right? So I'm just using the definition of percent when I multiply like that. But it's nice to know for what's coming up that we multiplied sort of going forward. We started with how much we shopped for, and we ended up with how much goes in the pot. Does that make sense? Whoever defined yield percent kind of did it backwards, because you're never going to just randomly shop for 100 pounds of potatoes. You're going to start with how much you need in the pot for the recipe and then go shopping. Does that make sense? Yeah. So kind of the normal way to do this is backwards from what we just did. So if we need 100 pounds, now, if I multiply by 0.78, it's going to get smaller. I don't want that. I want to overshop. I want to buy more than 100 pounds of potatoes. I need to do the opposite of what we did before. So what's the opposite of multiply? Divide. Divide. So I will divide. Oops. It's easier when I'm looking straight at the screen and not over my shoulder, but the things I do. So if I do 100 divided by 0.78, what's that? Someone do that on a calculator or phone. About 121.
Yeah.
So I need to go to the store and buy 121 pounds. And then by the time I trim it, I'll be down to the 100. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to do this. Oh, actually, a comment. What you just noticed was an example of this colorful picture. If we're multiplying and dividing by something that's between 0 and 1, like a percent is always between 0 and 1, then multiplying makes things smaller, right? 78% of 100 is smaller than the 100. Dividing by a number between 0 and 1 makes it bigger. And that seems a little weird because most of the time in life we deal with counting numbers that are bigger than one. So we think multiplying makes things bigger and dividing makes things smaller. But if the numbers you're playing with are decimals between 0 and 1, which percentages will be, then it works the other way. So that is your reminder screen about that. Okay, so we're going to do yield percent now ourselves. I'll turn off the recording if you're home to bed. But we have one apple. So somebody who is going to be our ready volunteer will take the apple and just like you did with waffles, which you also missed out on if you were home. Then weigh the apple first. Trim it, try not to be wasteful. Weigh it again, and we'll see what our yield percent for apples are, at least the way our volunteer cuts apples. I've done this before in certain classes, and I had one boy that just like ate the apple core with all the food. Anyway, that's my
They taste good sometimes.
so, okay, I will stop the recording and let's find out what the yield percent of an apple is.